Hello, it's Anne-Marie from Charmed Life Therapy again, back with another little update about the Ends With Us legal drama, which is more now like the Perez Hilton legal drama, which will please him very much, I am sure. It's like the more this goes on, the further and further away we're getting from allegations of SH, and it's like the less and less Justin Baldoni's name is actually mentioned. It's kind of crazy now that you're hearing more about Brian Friedman, about Perez Hilton, about all of the content creators, about people that we'd never heard about before, such as this the next desperate move, or what feels certainly desperate to most of us, is this move to compel the Skyline Agency, which is a Dallas-based company. So, according to Blake, there is evidence among the discovery materials that these people were talking to Justin Baldoni's counsel as far back as August and the start of the untraceable smear campaign. So now she wants to compel them, and I guess their argument is that the whatever it was is privileged communications. If they were talking about Justin in relation to his lawyers and such. And of course that's not good enough for Blake Lively, so she's moving to compel them now for whatever communications they have. She just is refusing to get this point of that if they are talking to attorneys about this matter or about where this might go or what's involved and all of that, that she doesn't get to access it. This is when you see a lack of logic when it comes to a narcissist, because they don't have that ability to say, what would that feel like if it was happening to me? Would I want all of my communications with my attorney, all of my raw, unfiltered conversations, emails, texts with my attorney, would I want to be compelled to give those over? What would that say about me? You'll never get a narcissist to look at that way. And while we're talking about narcissists, this has possibly been Blake's biggest mistake to date, going after Perez Hilton, because she should absolutely have known better. And this is, again, where narcissists have a lack of awareness. Because if she had some intelligence, and if the people advising her were not fixated on a specific viewpoint or specifically on earning fees, they would have said, don't touch Perez Hilton with a barge pole. Because the thing is, Perez Hilton is a self-identified narcissist as well. So you don't set a narcissist off and running unless you want a fight to the death. Because the thing is, he will not drop this now. You've had it. And there is nothing that he will not say. You've only to see what kinds of things he's saying to the judge. I caught a video of Perez's this morning, and it's like, I think in the course of one day or a couple of days, he dropped something like 10 letters onto the docket. And this is what she'd not factored in, because we can see how Blake is relentless in the pursuit of this, and how many things are on that docket, and that humongous omnibus brief that dropped the other day. She is relentless when it comes to, you must accept my perspective. And she's failed to recognise that when you annoy another narcissist, then they're going to be equally relentless in pursuing their own specific points and what have you. And that's what she's done. I mean, Perez Hilton was literally saying, I was up till 4 a.m. doing this. You know, I barely slept. And the thing is, when you get a narcissist on the case, they will keep going like the Energizer Bunny, and they will be up all hours doing it. And Blake Lively's busy. Surely I know she's got help with her 4 kids and what have you. But you know what I mean? Perez Hilton, you know, has children of his own, but he's got plenty of time to do this. And he's already proved that he's willing to do it. Enrage a narcissist. Give a narcissist something to fight back against, which she should have recognised you're in a fight to the death, basically, and there's nothing that he will not say. I mean, it's not stopped him coming up with a few new creative slurs for her, has it? And that's kind of one of the things that I wanted to point out in Blake's kind of motions in opposition to Perez, or to make him comply or whatever. She's come out with some of these things that he's said, such as, litigious, lively, blackface Blake, Ku Klux Khaleesi, among others. But what's interesting is the one slur that she didn't put on the docket for all to see, which was the one that he uses an awful lot: 0-time Oscar-nominated actress, Blake Lively. And do you know why she's not putting that on the docket? Because that's not what she wants you to be focused on. She's less concerned about being considered racist and litigious and a member of the Ku Klux Klan than she is being 0-time Oscar-nominated actress. That is the one that really hurts. That's why that is not the one that's on the docket. She's not concerned about being considered a racist. Being considered a racist does not matter to Blake Lively. That's why there was no kerfuffle around Preserve disappearing. She never fought back against being alleged as a racist then, or never fought the idea of she was wrong to have a plantation wedding. She wasn't really worried about whether people long-term thought of her as a racist. That wasn't even a factor to her. If it was a factor to her, she might have actually paid the money that she pledged to pay in order to make amends, reparations for that, because allegedly that money never got paid out. Now, I don't know the truth of that, but that is what's floating about now. That is what I have seen in different sources. So it's very, very interesting that the most thing she's concerned about, the most thing that's really offensive to her, and possibly was partly what was driving this whole thing to do with It Ends With Us, is she really did think this movie was going to be her big push, to be recognised, to be vaunted as an actress, potentially maybe to get nominated for some things. But the thing is, she would have had a better chance of all of that had she not marketed the movie as Betty Boo's Flowers, Florals. Because that when it comes to nominations or awards, it's all about how that person is marketed, what they're seen to be doing. Everything is tailored to getting those nominations or putting them forward. So everything you put out in terms of public perception is all geared towards sending out the right message. And this is where Blake and Ryan absolutely fall by the wayside, because they don't seem to have any concept of how social media truly works and public undercurrent. They're completely out of touch with real people. Potentially, if she'd have behaved herself and not caused all this fuss over It Ends With Us, I don't think I've not seen the movie, but I don't think she would have been Oscar nominated, but she might have been nominated for a few other little bits and bobs, who knows? But part of the problem was she didn't, you know what I mean? It's like how actresses, there's that running joke, isn't there, that if you want to get Oscar nominated or whatever, that you have to slap a big nose on your face, or put on 50 pounds, or shave your hair, or work out and get massive muscles, or whatever. You have to completely change the way you look. And then it's like, there's that joke, isn't there? You're guaranteed an Oscar nom or whatever it is. But the one thing that's not going to work is if you star in a DV movie, this, complicated romantic epic or whatever it is. The one thing you don't go and do is go out and market it to the world as this is not a DV movie. Because if you're gonna go off and market it as a popcorn movie, a big summer movie, grab your friends, wear your florals, that's when any chance you had of a nomination is going to absolutely disappear, because you're perceived as a popcorn movie or a romantic comedy or whatever it is, or a piece of fluff, just watchable fluff. And that's exactly what Justin Baldoni didn't want for this movie. So I just found that really interesting, that was the one slur that she didn't present back to the judge, you know what I mean? So anyway, we have a lovely letter from Kevin Fritz. I live for these letters at this point. I think Brian Friedman has possibly hired Kevin Fritz solely for these letter writing skills. So dear Judge Lyman, this is dated August 6th. So dear Judge Lyman, as counsel for Wayfarer Studios, blah de blah, we know them all by now, we write in opposition to Blake Lively's motion to strike her final deposition transcript, currently filed under seal from the docket and for related relief. The motion in brackets. So he's clarifying there that what she was calling this rough version, this draft that wasn't proofed, that wasn't checked, that wasn't approved, he's saying actually this was the final transcript. It was the polished, finished article. So Ms. Lively frames her argument as a motion to strike pursuant to Federal Rule of Civil Procedure and the court's inherent power. However, Rule 12F does not authorise this court to strike documents other than pleadings. And then there's some of Judge Lyman's case law quoted there, where pleadings include only the complaint, answer to cross-claims and counterclaims, third-party complaint, answer to third-party complaint, and replies when ordered by the court. They do not include exhibits submitted in connection with oppositions to motions. And there's more court law, court filings of Judge Lyman's produced, which in brackets says, denying motion to strike, opposition to motion to dismiss as procedurally improper. Oh, God, I don't know what brain you have to be a lawyer, but that is just like word soup to my ears, particularly this morning anyway. Further, Ms. Lively does not contend that the deposition transcript contains abusive, improper, or libelous materials which might warrant the court's exercise of its inherent power. More case law quoted. I don't know if that's Judge Lyman. I don't think that is. I can't see him there. So after all the deposition transcript records... Oh, sorry, reading that wrong. After all, the deposition transcript records Ms. Lively's own words. Ms. Lively contends that the transcript must be stricken based on her speculation that it was filed for the purpose of the transcript into the public domain as fodder for their media campaign. The time-honoured argument of Blake Lively that any form of defence has to be a social media campaign or for publicity or PR, which has been her narrative right from the start. When she's not pushing defamation, retaliation, she's pushing this is PR campaign on their behalf, even when it comes to their lawyers and anything the lawyers say. So the transcript, however, was filed under seal, as we know, so we can't see it. Joe Blogs can't see it. And Ms. Lively has the option of moving to keep the document sealed, although it is puzzling why she seeks to conceal her own testimony in an action in which she is the plaintiff. And there's like a footnote there that says, we are unclear why Ms. Lively refers to her deposition transcript as a rough draft, given that the document is not marked as a rough draft, as such versions of transcripts traditionally are. So then the letter continues. The deposition transcript was filed in connection with Liner Friedman, Tattleman and Cooley LLP's motion to quash Ms. Lively's subpoena seeking Brian Friedman's purported statements to content creators and the media. Liner Friedman moved to quash the subpoena, in brackets, which motion has since been largely granted, as we know. The parties fully briefed the issues, and on July 30th, the court heard oral argument. No additional argument or supplemental briefing was requested by the court. Etienne. Nonetheless, Ms. Lively filed a letter with the court which purported to address certain questions with the court, but which was truly an improper submission of further argument on the motion to quash. So they're always determined to have their say way above and beyond. The Wayfarer parties responded citing Ms. Lively's deposition transcript, which was attached as an exhibit to demonstrate for the court that Ms. Lively's allegations of an ongoing smear campaign are unsubstantiated. By improperly submitting additional argument on the motion to quash, Ms. Lively invited a response that would include evidence to establish the true reason why Ms. Lively served the subpoena upon Lina Friedman. It is routine for the court to consider deposition testimony in connection with discovery disputes. See Spencer Smith versus Ehrlich, which is another Judge Lyman's, and in brackets that says citing deposition testimony in order on motion to compel discovery. Contrary to Ms. Lively's contention, the Wayfarer parties did not hope to make her defend the continued sealing of the transcript so that they can advance the false narrative that she is afraid of her deposition testimony becoming public, which is what they claimed. Ms. Lively will either move to permanently seal her transcript or she will not. The choice is hers. Ms. Lively next alleges that it's so clever because I guess we know they are being slightly naughty, dumping the whole thing on there. But it's clever and it's not overly offensive. You know, the moves from Blake's side tend to be overly offensive to us regular people. And this is how we know Lina Friedman are absolutely talking to us in the way they tackle this. They know that us is where the power is. And when I say that, I don't mean like me as a content creator. I mean everybody, everywhere, public that is taking this on board. Because it's just giving us those little twinkles, isn't it? Is don't worry everybody. You know, we know what we're doing. This isn't a mistake. We're having a little bit of fun here. We're kind of giving you a little bit of a, little bit of a nudge and a wink. It's a bit like that. Because it is saying basically, like Lively, what are you afraid of? You're so confident. You've brought this legal case to court. You weren't afraid of, you were looking forward to your deposition is what you were saying. You were totally confident. You knew you were going to be totally vindicated by this entire process. What is so worrying about your own words that you would file further motions to strike and all of this? Are you afraid of your own words becoming public? And it's kind of a challenge, isn't it? Ms. Lively will either move to permanently seal her transcript, and in effect, then we'll all be wondering what's in it, or she will not. So it's like that challenge. Put it all out there. Put it all out there, isn't it? It is very clever. It's very clever, a little bit naughty, a little bit cheeky. And I think that they're entitled to seek a bit of levity with this wherever they can, I think. So the next it continues. Ms. Lively next alleges that it also appears that the Wayfarer defendants immediately leaked details from the deposition to the tabloid media. Now, this is what I said. That my thought in some of my last videos was there's so many people here. There's everybody that's related to a Wayfarer defendant, a partner of a Wayfarer defendant, a child of a Wayfarer defendant, everybody in that office at Manat or wherever that deposition was held, everybody that's a receptionist or an admin or just simply interested or works at Manat and does not like Blake Lively, somebody in that office that's regularly seeding stuff to the press. How can you can't just accuse it coming from the Baldoni side of things, because everybody's got a horse in this race or a dog in this race, whatever you want to call it. So she does not cite any evidence that it came from the Wayfarer defendants, basically, which is what I said. So this is not surprising, as there is none. And basically that's reiterating that all this time she wants stuff, the answer is there is none, Ms. Lively also fails to explain why any such leak could not have originated from Ms. Lively, her husband, her multiple attorneys, legal or administrative staff from the law firm representing her, in brackets, whose office she demanded host the deposition, or the catering staff employed thereby who served lunch. You see, I didn't think of the catering staff, but that's a good point. Do you hope they'd spit in her food? Do you kind of secretly hope that? Now they brought up the catering staff, that's the first thing that came into my wicked mind. I wonder if a few of them just spit on the food they knew was for her, because it would have been specifically set aside for her, presumably. She would have had like a separate plate That's my theory. Anyway, so the catering staff employed thereby who served lunch, putting aside the identity of the culprit, the identities of those in attendance for her deposition are not newsworthy, because all parties are entitled to attend all depositions. For the reasons set forth above, the motion should be denied. So they're always like a little moment of joy, I find, these letters. And I think what's clever about them as well is they're never overly long either. When we kind of get Blake's stuff, it's always long and whinging and whining and about the unfairness of it all. And they're not doing this, they should be doing, and they're not doing that, they should be doing. Whereby it's like these little nuggets of gold, I feel like, when you get the Wayfarer stuff on the docket. So yeah, so there's been a ton of stuff dropping, and it's like, and I think part of the reason why Lively is dropping a ton of stuff on the docket is to kind of make people be weary, including content creators, because when a ton of stuff is dropping all the time and there's a ton of stuff, of documents to go through, especially as a content creator, when you feel this pull that I have to keep making content, I have to be on it every day, I have to be doing this, it's like, if there's a ton of it, it's harder for you to get through it. There's less time. You've got your family, you've got wherever. You probably haven't got nannies to look after your kids and run your house and clean your floors and the rest of it. You're sneaking this in wherever you can. So in essence, I think the way that they're bombarding the docket at this point is about exhausting people and making you miss stuff and sliding things into footnotes, which is what the new tactic seems to be. They keep sliding things into the footnotes, because I missed one the other day where it was in the footnotes basically that the judge, shouldn't basically grant any kind of leave to answer any of these motions for sanctions or strikes or anything like that. It was like literally slipped into a footnote. And sometimes when you're reading these documents, you see those footnotes and you think, oh, skim past that because it's interrupting the flow of the letter. So it's really, really sneaky. And I think that's part of what they're doing. They're trying to exhaust content creators and keep them off stride too. And the thing is, that won't work with somebody like Perez Hilton, because he will look at the finer details and he will dissect every tiny bit. And I noticed Andy Signor yesterday kind of had jumped on board in support of Perez. And Andy Signor, I don't know what document he had, but there was a picture of Perez's child on the document. He blanked it out for the purpose of making his video. But I presume it's in a motion of Blake's that's, look, he's asking for protective order, but here's his child on the internet or whatever. And she'd literally put a picture of Perez's child on this screenshot on this document. And I hadn't seen that, but Andy put it on one of his videos. So he was out the other day in support of Perez Hilton. And I'm kind of pleased with my little self, because I said all along is that when you're dealing with narcissists, the best thing that can happen is if you have a narcissist on your side too, because it's a bit like me with my work when, you're trying to distract conscious mind so subconscious mind can do the work. And my clients often worry about, well, am I in hypnosis because my mind is still thinking, there's still thoughts rolling through my mind, and your mind never goes totally blank. It's impossible for your mind not to think a thought. So what we have to do as hypnotherapists is distract that conscious mind, often with making it count or sending it down a rabbit hole, a language rabbit hole of some kind, where it's trying to figure out what does that mean, and meanwhile we're doing some other conversation that's working on the subconscious mind. So that's what I'm saying, this narcissism thing. If you want to defeat a narcissist, it's not a bad idea, because they're both acting on that conscious mind kind of level. So meanwhile you can do actually some serious, deep, permanent work on the underneath where it will matter. Let the narcissist worry about all the superficial stuff, and I won this bit, you won that bit, I won this bit, you won that bit, I got a good point in, I had another dig at the judge, like he's getting in his digs at the judge every time he writes these letters. And it's, you know, it's kind of a wake up to the judge as well, because it's like everybody's watching. It's a reminder every time. It's one of those letters hit the docket where Perez says, I know you are, you know, my feeling is that you are biased towards Blake Lively. I don't know what's going to go on. I mean, Perez seems convinced that this motion that he has filed in Las Vegas will mean that his case, his subpoena, and whether he has to answer it or not, stays in Nevada. But we know Blake has requested to pull that in to New York. This is what she does all along. She wants to bring this skyline business into New York. It's like in the early days, it was like she got to forum shop and pick and choose, you know, where she was filing stuff and which jurisdiction. But now it's like, no, you're all going to have to come to me in New York. This is where I want to deal with you. I don't care where you live. You're going to be... And she just... It literally lands on the docket like, I know this will be granted. I know this will be brought to New York. That's the feeling. I don't think I'm alone in thinking that. So Perez is very confident this is going to stay in Nevada. I'm not so sure, because it depends on the individual policies of the court, doesn't it? And the individual feeling will, you know, it's like California caved when it came to Brian Friedman. It's like, oh, I don't want to borrow this. I'll send it to New York where you know everything that's going on. And that might happen in Nevada. But that's the thing, though, as well. Even that won't be taken as a loss by Perez, because it will be more excuse to harass Lyman and Lively on the docket. So, and that's what we know about narcissists. There's no winning and losing as such. It's all good. It's all good. Even when they take a hit, they can turn it into something else and something else and something else. Whatever happens, whatever interaction goes on, energy multiplies. So this, hark back to my original point, is they've been really, really dumb elevating Perez Hilton in this matter, because Perez Hilton is not a focal point of this argument, of this case. They think they can make him so because he has a past history and he's a bit polarizing and all the rest of it. But they're forgetting about the fact that he's relentless and it won't stop, and he's not really worried about consequences to his image, you know, because he's taken plenty of hits in his lifetime. And, you know, he won't hold back his words. He won't hold back his opinion. So that has been a really big mistake on Blake and Ryan's part, because it's out there for the world to see and access. You know, quick Google search on Perez Hilton, you would find every negative story about him there ever was, every time he said stuff that people challenged and he never backed down off of. So somebody in that team has been really dumb, thinking it was a good idea to take Perez Hilton out of the spot he was in terms of importance in all of this, and elevating him by making him a focal point. It's been a terrible move, I think. Anyway, you let me know what you think. I don't want to get across all of this stuff, because it's like I say, we're all interested in this, but you know, there's no point everybody doing all of the legal arguments, because right now they're turning on a dime and on a whim, and you read one thing and before you know it, there's another one on the docket that kind of almost makes it irrelevant, or there's been a correction or something or other. But yeah, basically, I think that's the thing as well. Wayfarer has been granted that bit of an extension to respond to this massive omnibus brief from Blake Lively. So they have been granted a few extra days to figure out how they're going to address all of that. So it'll be interesting to see what they come back with there. I'm imagining that letter will be quite a doozy as well, because it does feel like Manat and Wilkie Farr and all of those are being really underhanded, because it's like I said on the last video, which I was trying to figure out in my head as I did it, that right before that omnibus brief had dropped, they'd negotiated between all parties a little bit of extra time. And what Wayfarer was saying was, to the judge was, when, you know, we came to you, we approved that extra time between us. We were under the impression that what Team Lively were going to present to us to deal with was a couple more letter motions of things that they wanted or things that they claimed hadn't been produced. And the minute kind of they filed that omnibus brief like middle of the night, and it took forever to upload because it was a massive file, which left them less than 48 hours to respond to it. So it's all trickery and nastiness and getting one over and all of that. So it feels really gross and grotesque. And yeah, all I can do is continue to bang on about the fact of your average person just won't see the sense in all of this. They'll be thinking, why can't they see what they're doing? And it's like, it's just that eternal query of what it is to be a narcissist, because they simply just can't see what they are doing, even when, to all extents and purposes, it seems like it's entirely going wrong for them. They can never drop a narrative. They can never backtrack. They can only pivot. And we're seeing that a lot of, I'm sure somebody else has said that in a video, I can't think which one, but it is, you know, like if SH isn't working, we go defamation. If defamation isn't going well, we go retaliation. If retaliation isn't going well, we go PR. If PR isn't going well, we go back to SH, or we find another way, or we find another person that's retaliating, or we find another person that surely there's communications from them. It's like, we cannot drop the narrative that you just don't like us, that you just don't like our actions or behaviours. But yeah, the most fascinating point of the last few days to me has been the fact that she omitted 0-time A-list Oscar-nominated actress from her complaint against Perez Hilton's video content. And I think it's these things that they omit that are the things that we should really focus on, because they're the things that really bother them. Anyway, you let me know your thoughts. Hit that like and subscribe and share if you can. And I'm so happy you got me past 400 subscribers, which I know to most people isn't a lot in terms of things, but it's a lot to me, and I'm really happy about it and really pleased to be having these little conversations backwards and forwards with you. Yeah, and I will see you again soon. Thank you for watching.